over there if you don't mind and support the work. Okay. All right. So last video, I talked about Branson going over and meeting with Zelensky in his office at the end of June, which I found really weird. And then we went over a bunch of the nonprofit NGOs that he's involved with creating and nurturing. Talked about his 2 islands in the British Virgin Islands. Talked about his association with the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children and his mother, who was on the board of directors of that. The associations there. I talked about how he hosted NXIVM twice on his Necker Island in the in the British Virgin Islands, and how they were recently busted, and how Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein were also recently busted, and they had an island in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And I speculated in that video as to whether or not Richard Branson might be some kind of fixer, some kind of connection maker, some kind of groomer for the networks of trafficking that operate throughout the Virgin Islands and indeed throughout the world. I said that there were all these orphans, 200,000 plus orphans in Ukraine, and they were kind of up for grabs by all these NGOs that rushed in. And that was part of the reason I drew that connection, and how Ukraine is styling itself as the stem cell capital of the world. Stem cells, of course, are harvested from humans. And there's a variety of ways that they do this, but they often use aborted fetuses. They often use bone marrow. They can get them from anyone, but you need the donors. So I kind of left it an open question of what Richard Branson was doing in all of these areas. And in the comment section of that video, people said to me, well, there's a more direct connection between Ghislaine Maxwell and Richard Branson than you mentioned. And indeed, there is. Richard Branson was a founding member, or was a member, a resident of, or whatever they were calling, a citizen of, Ghislaine Maxwell's charity called Terramar, the Terramar Project. And here is Branson in 2012 tweeting about joining us at Terramar to become citizens. And in 2013, Richard Branson became a citizen of Terramar. Isn't that interesting? So I will update the graphic at the end. So that's one interesting thing that somebody alerted me to in the comment section. Thank you very much for that. Another thing that I didn't know before I recorded the video was that Richard Branson actually has, in his Virgin Empire, his business empire, he has Virgin Care, which is healthcare. This is an article from 2018, how Virgin became one of the UK's leading healthcare providers. Contracts for services from immunization to sexual health. They have had almost £2 billion worth of contracts since 2010. Did you know that? I didn't know that. So that could also explain why Branson was over there in Zelensky's office. Because Zelensky is opening up his country to predatory corporations. He's basically selling it off piece by piece. And I don't have the information in front of me, but there was stories out not long ago about how, Microsoft is going to take over the telecommunications infrastructure, and the Netherlands or Norway or somebody is going to take over another aspect of the country's infrastructure, and they're divvying it out to the high bidder, I guess. So maybe Branson was over there talking to Zelensky about this same sort of arrangement, getting contracts to provide health services in Ukraine through Virgin Health. So let me just look a little bit more at this Guardian article and read you some highlights. In early 2000, the Labour government realized it had a problem with the NHS. Alan Milburn, the then health secretary, wanted fresh ideas, and so he contacted Sir Richard Branson. Over a 3-month period, a team from Virgin, including the group's brand quality director and a general manager from the airline, visited hospitals and GP surgeries around England and Wales. I mean, see how inappropriate this is? As if you get an airline guy to tour medical facilities and make a report on it. But that's what they did. That was Labour, by the way, in, like I said, early 2000. And since then, Branson's Virgin Care has won almost $2 billion in contracts. Virgin Group is growing fast and has become a regular winner of state contracts in the health sector through a complex web of companies and subsidiaries. Virgin does not publicly disclose all its contracts, and in government there does not appear to be any central register of what state money is going where, which is just astounding. People in the UK, that is crazy. I can't believe you've put up with that. Although, here I sit in Canada, the least transparent country next to China, I'm sure of it. Okay, and then they mention how the company claims it's not motivated by financial rewards, but Virgin Care is woven into a web of private companies that connect upwards to the Virgin Islands tax haven. Again, Zelensky's money. You know how he has all this money in these mansions all over the place? Why? How did he get this money? And where does he keep it? He keeps it in tax havens in the British Virgin Islands. That was one of the things I mentioned in my last video. Okay, continuing on. There have been problems with some of the Virgin Care contracts. In June of 2018, Lancashire County Council attempted to award a $104 million contract. Its attempt to award the contract was blocked by a legal challenge, and last year Virgin won a $2 million payout from NHS trusts after taking court action over the loss of a children's services contract in Surrey. See, none of these kind of losses to the taxpayer would happen if this was handled by the government, but it's handled by a private company. Meanwhile, East Staffordshire Clinical Commissioning Group is in a long-running contractual dispute with Virgin over a $39 million a year deal to run care for the long-term sick and elderly. I wonder whatever happened with that, because we know that during COVID, the plandemic, they ended up killing a lot of old people in nursing homes, which works for the population reductionists, which, you know, you would need friendly people in place to hand out all that midazolam and to cruelly and coldly prevent people from visiting their loved ones in the nursing homes and that. So I wonder if any of those facilities are actually run in the background by Virgin Care. That would be something I would look into if I lived over there. I mean, maybe not, but, you know, it raises a question. And then they talk about this Sutherland Lodge surgery in Essex, which was judged to be outstanding before Virgin took over. And then the owners resigned, Virgin took over, and they said they had an inspection where they ended up putting the surgery into special measures because drugs were being kept at the wrong temperature, important letters from hospitals were missed for weeks, and other issues. To me, this isn't surprising, given how Virgin Airlines operated. Really flippantly, like, we're just traveling through the air, no worries, like we can just party all the way through. And the Virgin Mobile, hey there, cool guy, leave a message. You know, to me, it was very, very unprofessional. So I can't even imagine the hellscape of being in a surgery and having that kind of attitude go on. You'd think they would be serious about something like that, but on the other hand, what happened in the past is an indication of what will happen in the future, right? And Virgin, oh yeah, it's flippant. It's fun. It's woke. Why would you worry? Don't worry, be happy. Okay, I'm wasting time. What more? There's a little bit more. Carol Sams, who ran that clinic for almost 20 years, told The Guardian details of payments she had seen suggested Virgin was being paid more for offering a more basic service to patients. They were getting 30% more from the government than the previous owners had been getting. And Virgin says, well, we don't know what the previous people were getting, but this is what we charge, and we haven't made a profit to date, and the Virgin Group has invested millions in Virgin Care, improving patient and employee satisfaction and saving the NHS and local authorities millions. That's what they say about it. But it doesn't appear to be true because they're filing lawsuits and they're flubbing around on contracts and they're providing less care for more money, etc. I don't know what to make of it, but there's something interesting that maybe a lot of people don't know about Richard Branson and the Virgin Group or the NHS and how it operates. This supposedly public healthcare system is actually run through contracts with a lot of private companies, right? And Branson is one of them. I want to mention that Branson is also partnered with something called Mission Blue, which was a thing set up by Ted Turner, now deceased, Sylvia Earle, and Branson to form a company called to form an NGO called Ocean Elders. They're all already involved in this one, Mission Blue, but they're starting a new one called Ocean Elders. Mission Blue, by the way, ended up producing a documentary about the sea with youth ambassador Maggie Nixon. So she and Sylvia Earle did this movie together. A lot has been made about this because Obama seems to have an unusual relationship with this girl, Maggie Nixon. Here's 2 pictures of him with her when she was little. And look, I was going to get into this for this video, but it's been covered elsewhere. You should look into that. It's a bit weird, it's a bit sketchy, but for today, I'm just bringing this up because of the characters involved and because of what happened later with Obama. Obama was the president who lifted the restrictions on using human embryos for stem cell research. Here is Obama with Richard Branson at his island in February 2017. They're just talking about them kiteboarding. And here's Obama in 2021 with Sylvia Earle. You remember she's the one from this charity who also happens to be part of the Terra Mar project that I mentioned earlier. So now Sylvia Earle is here with Obama, showing him a fish that was discovered that they named after him in 2021. I mean, I don't know why, but they did, and it's just spooky, weird connections to me. Maybe there's a reasonable explanation for all of this that doesn't involve Obama doing favors for these NGOs. But I'm just trying to say, these people are kind of all the same, and they have predatory ambitions in more ways than one. Not just to use taxpayer money to fund their lifestyles and their pet projects, which end up destroying humanity, a lot of them, but also predators in the sick, twisted, anti-human, stem cell, bio research area. Here's an article from 2013 saying how to find investment ideas in Obamacare. And it mentions Virgin Healthcare here. It says, well, Obamacare could give Richard Branson and Virgin Healthcare the opportunity to expand its operations in the United States, just as the National Health Service has allowed it to in the United Kingdom. Over the past decade, the Virgin Group has increased its portfolio of healthcare entities around the world. At present, these include the Virgin Health Bank in Qatar, focusing on stem cell research. Yeah, stem cell research. The health bank that Virgin opened in Qatar, I don't know why they didn't open it somewhere else, but anyway, in Qatar, it was saying that parents could have their infants' cord blood, their umbilical cord blood, stored there. And that has a lot of stem cells in it. And Branson said he was going to share this with the National Health Service in the UK so that they could perform life-saving surgeries with it and I guess do research with it. But that really hasn't happened. And ever since they have been playing around with this stuff, they've claimed that it was going to be used to try to cure Parkinson's disease, mainly. This is the one they focus on a lot. Is that cured, can I ask you? It isn't. Mostly when you look into stem cells, and stem cell therapies, as they're called, there isn't a lot of success with them. And most of what I can find they're used for is for anti-aging. And there's even a thriving industry for curing autism by injecting I don't even want to talk about it, right directly into people's bodies as a cure for autism, supposedly. Look, this is all very sick, and as I said, I'm working on 2 other videos. One is actually about Peter Nygard. If you don't know who he is, was a Canadian fashion company owner, worth $900 million, and he was big in the anti-aging and biotech and stem cells. Studying that, and I'm studying just the sort of general world of stem cells, the history. When was it invented or discovered? What do they use it for? What are the detractors saying? All of that. So I'm working on all of that at once. So my mind is a little scrambled if this video is a bit all over the place for you. One more thing I want to mention before I wrap up. It was another comment somebody left on the video about something I didn't know about Richard Branson. Here is a YouTube video of Richard Branson in 1971. And what he's doing here is he's counseling this person, this woman, on how and where to get an abortion and whether or not she would want one. I will leave a link for this video in the description box. I can't believe it. 1971, Richard Branson decides to open youth counseling centers. And one of the things he does is help people get abortions way back then in 1971. And that does figure in bigly to the world of stem cells and the supposed miraculous biotechnology industry that everybody has rushed into. So at the end, the updated graphic, we have all of the same stuff as before, except now it becomes more clear why Richard Branson might have been over talking to Zelensky, because he does have a company that's into healthcare called Virgin Care, and it does have a part in stem cell research. Although I should say he has sold that stem cell bank to another company now. It's sold. He doesn't own it anymore. But he is interested in the whole world of stem cells and stem cell research, obviously. And so was he over there talking to Zelensky to get in on maybe the privatization of their country's healthcare services? And the other update was that he is actually connected to Ghislaine Maxwell directly through her Terramar project. And also he's connected to Sylvia Earle through 2 other ocean projects. And Sylvia Earle is connected to Ghislaine Maxwell through Terramar as well. And then don't forget the abortions. Who knew? Richard Branson was a counselor as well, a health counselor. All right, everybody, I'm going to stop talking now. I thank you for listening and bearing with me through this rather clumsy report.